Drew here with Plot First, and I have to say, I really enjoyed this episode of Your Honor. Part 7, I felt like it was always tense and things were always moving forward, and there are a lot of really, really riveting sequences and scenes. Now, I will admit it has some of the same problems that earlier episodes have had, that there's a lot of coincidences that you have to suspend disbelief about, and I think there was one scene in particular between Adam and Michael where both of them were keeping these secrets from each other, and the conversation just ended up being ridiculous because they were withholding information seemingly for no reason from my perspective. But again, I think it was a strong episode with a lot of memorable scenes. I felt like the most memorable part of the episode was the interactions between Michael and Jimmy Baxter. I feel like this was an opportunity to see two acting towerhouses just square off, and it was really, really something to see. I think, Bryan Cranston has always been a really, really expressive actor, and he had many opportunities this episode to show his acting range. I think perhaps the scene where his acting range was showed the best was at his surprise birthday party, where Charlie was giving a speech and talking about all the positive attributes that he has and how he had saved his life. And Michael was sitting there looking pained because he knows what he has just done, that he has betrayed this colleague, this friend, whatever you want to call her, this fellow judge. And I'm not exactly sure what the end game is with her, if they're going to get her disbarred so that he can get put on the trial, or if they're literally going to end up having her killed. But obviously there were some uncomfortable parallels with, and there have been, this isn't new to this show, but there were some uncomfortable parallels with things that have happened in the U.S. lately with the treatment of this judge and the fact that she was stopped, even though, there's plenty of other people that could have been stopped, and the way that the cops assumed things about her, or pretended to, since I think they knew exactly who she was and were intentionally getting her because they are clearly on the take for the Baxter family. And this is all just a ploy to get Michael put on the case. I really don't know what the end game is for Michael once he's on this case, and if he actually manages to get Carlo Baxter off, what's his plan? Because he's going to get killed. The minute that Carlo Baxter is off, there is no reason for Jimmy Baxter to keep him alive. And I thought some of the tensest scenes this episode, in keeping with that, were the scenes where Jimmy Baxter's henchman was working with Michael to get rid of the body of this blackmailer, who I feel a good deal of sympathy for, or at least pity for, because while he wasn't the nicest guy, he certainly didn't deserve to be killed for his trouble, and you almost feel a degree of sympathy just because, he just wanted to go fishing on his boat, and now they're using this boat to get rid of his body. So that was sad to see. But I think what made this scene so tense was the realization that Michael had, and I appreciate that they write this character as a very intelligent person. He foresees every possible outcome. He's always aware and always thinking ahead. And he realizes that if they decide that they don't need him, if they get Carlo ferreted away before the police can grab him, then they will have no use for him and they'll simply kill him on the spot. And the scene with him holding the box cutter behind his back as he worries that the henchman is going to kill him, very, very well acted by Bryan Cranston. The music added to the tension so much. Got to keep shouting out the music. It's really, really well done. And then finally realizing that they weren't going to kill him, the expression of relief on his face. So much good acting from Bryan Cranston this episode. And I think Michael Stuhlbarg, again, like I said, the two powerhouses squaring off. Michael Stuhlbarg had some good individual scenes as well, racing to tell his son not to go to the hotel. I really appreciate the level of production that goes into this, like the scene with Jimmy driving frantically to get there, cutting across traffic, and then the scene at the hotel with the police showing up. Those were just really, really well realized, and that really added to the human emotion that was going on in those scenes because it felt real. It felt like we were really witnessing all this stuff happening, and it had the chaos of reality. Really well orchestrated, obviously, by the directors and the writers to a certain extent. And the scenes between them squaring off, I kept wondering why Michael doesn't tell Jimmy that his son died on the spot, that there was nothing that he could do. And, why doesn't he just say that? Of course, he might not be believed, and it might just make Jimmy Baxter more angry, but I keep thinking that half of their conversations are operating on the assumption that he left this boy who was alive and would have had a chance to survive to suffer and die on his own, and that's what's making Jimmy Baxter so furious with him. I thought the scene where Jimmy Baxter justified why he killed an entire family, including children, where he basically said, I am numb because of my child's death, and I don't feel any guilt for anything anymore, and I can do whatever I want, essentially. There's a level of privilege that Jimmy Baxter has that even Michael and some of the other white characters in the show don't enjoy, that he can do whatever he wants and he just doesn't even think about other people and how his actions affect other people, and that he has so much power. You see this in the scene where he's squared off with Big Mo and Little Mo, and where he tells them basically, I'm not going to pay you, what you going to do about it? And then it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm not quite sure, honestly, at this point, why Big Mo and Little Mo are in the show. I'm not sure how they're going to contribute to the final outcomes. The only thing I can come up with is perhaps Carlo will get off, and then he will still get justice because they'll end up killing him right away as soon as he gets off. But we'll have to wait and see where that goes. We didn't get to see a lot of Adam this episode, but there was one scene between him and Michael where... very, very gross scene. My wife had to look away when she realized what was going to happen, but where he feeds this human brain to the dog because his father hasn't told him that it's human brain and has told him that this concocted story that it's just from the butcher or whatever. And, this scene could have felt forced, but the way they wrote it, it made a degree of sense that this would happen. And Bryan Cranston's reaction at the end of the episode when he sees that the dog has vomited up the brain, it's just such good acting from him this episode. He just gave a little brief look and you could see that he wanted to be sick, and such an expressive actor. And the scenes in the courtroom where he basically provided all this authority and gravitas, even though he's in this frightening situation where he has to act like a judge, but he also has to make sure that he doesn't tick off Jimmy Baxter to such an extent that Jimmy decides to just have done with him. Tense scenes, but he provided, the authority and the level of gravitas that you would expect from a judge. And I think, it's amazing with Bryan Cranston that he can play so many different emotions, whether it be thoughtful, intelligence, frantic, rodent-like fearfulness, and, all these different reactions that he can bring to the screen, all in the space of one episode. We see so many ups and downs for this character. So, again, really enjoying this show. I actually think it's a good weekly show because they pack enough into each episode that I don't feel gypped, even though, I would love to binge it all at once. But I'm sure some of you would just like to get to the end and know how everything wraps up. But I'm enjoying the journey. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're interested in seeing my upcoming reviews of other shows, including Clarice on CBS All Access, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching.